Across the wide wind-swept downs and the rain-soaked villages of medieval England, few pieces of clothing worked as faithfully as the simple woolen hood. It was a small garment, but it carried an enormous burden. It hugged the cheeks of plowmen bending over stubborn fields, shaded the eyes of travelers moving carefully along muddy roads, and wrapped tightly around the ears of children trudging through endless winter slush. Light in weight, yet surprisingly tough, plain in shape, yet incredibly adaptable, the woolen hood was far more than an everyday accessory. In a land ruled by cold winds, constant drizzle, and unpredictable skies, this modest triangle of fabric became a quiet tool of survival. To understand the rhythm of medieval English life, the struggles, the work, the weather, you must understand why the hood became indispensable in a world where nature rarely offered mercy. The landscape itself demanded protection. Across England lay stretches of sodden farmland, bleak moorland, and damp river valleys that trapped cold like a cup holds water. And in this setting, the most vulnerable part of the body was the head. Rain did not often fall in sudden bursts. Instead, it drifted down in long, patient drizzles that slowly soaked through clothing and skin. That steady damp, more than any fierce storm, chilled the bones and caused the illnesses that swept through villages every year. In such conditions, a hood was not merely a convenience, it was a lifeline. Wool, in particular, offered a natural advantage. Even when wet, it held warmth better than linen or even fur, which grew heavy and unpleasant once soaked. A well-made hood guarded the ears, wrapped the neck, and shielded the back of the skull. Outdoor laborers, plowmen standing for hours behind their oxen, shepherds watching over flocks on high ridges, woodcutters traveling into shadowed forests, relied on that warmth to endure long days in the open. There was also a practical truth known to every family. A hood cost far less to replace than a full cloak. Cloaks required large amounts of cloth, careful tailoring, and a price few peasants could afford. The hood, by contrast, was cheap enough to become the first line of defense against England's stubborn weather. In a world with limited medical care and little comfort beyond what one could stitch at home, clothing became a crucial shield against illness, and the hood stood at the center of that quiet struggle for health. Every household understood that staying warm meant staying alive, and wool, more than any other material, rose to meet that need. The secret lay in English wool itself. The sheep that grazed across the kingdom produced fleece rich in lanolin, a natural oil that made the fibers water-resistant and astonishingly durable. Once carded and fulled, the wool tightened into dense cloth capable of blocking wind and shedding light rain. This process transformed loose fibers into a strong, warm fabric, ideal for a population that spent much of life outdoors. Workers traveled between fields, woods, and markets. Merchants moved from town to town. Children played and labored in all weathers. Everyone needed clothing that could move with them, survive the elements, and last through years of wear. Woolen hoods became the perfect answer, offering insulation without weight, protection without stiffness. Across the kingdom, the quality of wool varied. Rural flocks produced coarse, scratchier fibers that made sturdy hoods for laborers, simple, inexpensive pieces meant to endure mud, smoke, and rain. Meanwhile, the finer wool from regions like the Cotswolds allowed tailors to craft softer, more refined hoods for merchants, tradesmen, and minor nobles. And yet, despite the differences in softness or color, one essential truth remained unchanged. A woolen hood worked reliably in England's harsh and unpredictable climate. Wool bent easily, stretched gently, and draped naturally around the wearer's face. Even after hours in drizzle or fog, it retained enough warmth to keep out the dangerous chill. In a world with no modern waterproofing, English wool acted as a natural defense system, and the woolen hood became its most practical expression. The success of the hood came not only from its material, but from its clever shape. One of its most recognizable features was the leery pipe, a long, thin tail of cloth that extended from the back of the hood. This feature was more than decoration, it was a tool. Workers wound the liripipe around their heads like a scarf, draped it over their shoulders, or tied it under the chin when wind threatened to tear the hood loose. Travelers loosened the hood for airflow during long walks. At gatherings, markets, and village fairs, people simply pushed the hood back to rest on their shoulders, turning it into a relaxed accessory that suited tunics, gowns, and doublets. Manuscript illustrations from the era show men and women in hoods of every style and color, demonstrating how universal the garment had become. It crossed boundaries of age, class, and gender with ease. From field to churchyard, from muddy track to festival green, the hood served countless purposes. It blocked rain, warmed the neck, acted as a scarf, shielded hair from dust or smoke, offered modest covering during worship, and even added a touch of style during community celebrations. In a world where clothing needed to serve many roles, work, weather, worship, and everyday life, the hood's plain construction allowed it to fit seamlessly into every situation. It never hindered movement, never required adjusting beyond a quick pull or wrap, and never failed to offer at least some measure of protection. For the poor, the woolen hood was not simply useful, it was essential to survival. A hood needed only a small amount of cloth, making it one of the least expensive garments a person could own. Families who could not afford tailored coats or heavy cloaks relied on the hood as their main defense against the cold. Its simple shape meant it could be repaired at home, worn edges patched, torn seams stitched back together, thinning areas reinforced with scraps. Many rural workers possessed just two major garments, a tunic for the body and a hood for the head. Both had to withstand endless exposure to mud, smoke, harsh labor, and the weather's unending wear. Over time, the hood became a quiet symbol of labor, humility, and resilience. In stories, records, and illustrations, the hood often marks the working poor, not as a sign of shame, but as a badge of endurance. In a world where wealth was tied to land and clothing revealed one's place in society, the woolen hood stood as proof of the ingenuity of England's lowest classes. It offered dependable warmth long after other garments wore out. It represented the ability to survive with little, to work through cold seasons, and to face the landscape's harshness with steady resolve. And in this way, the hood became woven into the very identity of medieval England. The woolen hood's adaptability was one of its most remarkable features. Unlike heavier garments, it could bend, twist, and stretch, draping naturally over the head and shoulders, providing warmth without restricting movement. Central to this versatility was the leery pipe, a long, tapering tail of fabric that extended from the back of the hood. It was a simple invention, but profoundly useful. Workers would wrap it around their heads for extra warmth, or tuck it beneath the chin to secure the hood against strong winds. Travelers loosened it during long walks to allow air to circulate, while at markets or fairs, people rested the liripipe over their shoulders, turning the hood into a relaxed accessory that matched tunics, gowns, or doublets. Medieval manuscript illustrations show men and women wearing hoods of all shapes and colors, proving that this garment was universal. It crossed lines of age, gender, and class, demonstrating that in medieval England, function and practicality often dictated fashion. From the muddy fields to quiet churchyards, and from crowded marketplaces to festival greens, the woolen hood performed countless roles. It shielded the wearer from driving rain, acted as a scarf against the chill, and provided a modest covering for prayer and worship. At the same time, it could function as a simple statement of style at communal celebrations. In an age when clothing needed to serve multiple purposes, the hood's plain construction allowed it to follow the rhythms of daily life without ever becoming a burden. Its design was straightforward, with no complex tailoring required, yet it offered a perfect balance between practicality and adaptability, a rare combination in a world where survival often depended on one's garments. For peasants, the woolen hood was far more than a convenient accessory. It was indispensable. Unlike full cloaks or fitted coats, a hood required far less fabric, making it accessible to those of modest means. Families who could barely afford one substantial garment relied on the hood to protect against cold, rain, and wind. Its simplicity also made it easy to repair at home. Worn edges could be patched with leftover cloth, seams could be reinforced, and thinning sections restored with careful stitching. Many rural laborers owned only two essential garments, a tunic for the body and a hood for the head. Both endured constant exposure to mud, rain, smoke, and hard labor, yet they were maintained as carefully as possible because they were vital to survival. Over time, the woolen hood became more than functional. It became a symbol of labor, humility, and quiet endurance. It represented the daily efforts of those who plowed the fields, tended flocks, and traveled long distances on foot. In legal documents and literary records, the hood often marked the working poor, not as a sign of shame, but as a badge of resilience, a visual testament to the determination required to live under harsh conditions. Even as a utilitarian garment for peasants, the hood quickly found a place in the towns. Urban centers like York, Norwich, and London nurtured a growing middle class that embraced woolen hoods for both practicality and fashion. Workshops specialized in dyeing wool with vivid blues, reds, greens, and even deep purples, colors that were increasingly associated with wealth and civic pride. Tailors refined the shape of the hood, extending leery pipes, sharpening points, and adding fitted edges that framed the face elegantly. Written records reveal that apprentices saved wages to acquire stylish hoods for holidays and feast days, demonstrating the garment's role as a marker of youth and sociability. Marketplaces and fairs overflowed with color, where people displayed their dyed and embellished hoods with pride. The once humble woolen hood had become a visible symbol of personal identity and community participation. Guilds often organized parades in which members wore matching hoods, allowing townsfolk to recognize trades at a glance. For merchants, the hood blended practicality and prestige, protecting them on long journeys while signaling their status and taste upon returning to town. This adaptability, from simple rural protection to urban sophistication, showed the hood's unique ability to bridge worlds, connecting countryside thrift with city elegance. Women and children relied on woolen hoods in ways that reflected both care and ingenuity. Mothers wrapped young children in oversized hoods, letting the thick wool cover necks and chests like small cloaks, offering warmth and protection while completing everyday chores. The long leery pipe served multiple purposes. Women tied it under their chins while carrying heavy baskets, used it to secure bundles during errands, or even wrapped it around infants like a soft strap to keep them safe while moving through fields. For women engaged in outdoor labor, spinning wool, gathering firewood, or tending animals, the hood acted as a protective veil, shielding hair and face from wind and rain. Illuminated manuscripts frequently show entire families bundled in hoods during winter, a clear illustration of their universal utility. Children who lost heat faster than adults depended heavily on these garments. A woolen hood could mean the difference between enduring a cold day outside or succumbing to the chill. In households with limited clothing and meager resources, the hood became a symbol of maternal protection, a small yet vital safeguard woven into the fabric of daily family life. The woolen hood was also an essential tool for those working directly with the land. Shepherds would fold their hoods to create extra padding when carrying bundles of wool or firewood over long distances. Plowmen relied on the hood to shield their eyes from blowing soil and biting winds as they guided oxen across frozen fields. Unlike fur caps, which stiffened when wet or degraded quickly in damp conditions, woolen hoods endured mud, sweat, smoke, and the abrasive wear of daily labor. Their draped form allowed heat to escape just enough to prevent overheating during strenuous work, while still retaining warmth when the air cooled. In this way, the hood became a silent companion, adapting effortlessly to the wearer's needs. Even when soaked through by persistent rain, tightly woven wool trapped enough warmth to protect laborers during long hours on exposed moors or in frozen fields. In rural communities where life revolved around the land, the hood became more than clothing. It was a practical symbol of resilience, knowledge, and endurance. A simple garment taught villagers to adapt, survive, and continue their daily work despite constant environmental challenges. Beyond the fields, the woolen hood played a quiet role in England's military life. Foot soldiers, including the famed English archers, often wore woolen hoods beneath steel helmets or chainmail collars. The soft wool acted as padding, preventing chafing and absorbing sweat during long marches or extended combat. Archers on campaign relied on their hoods for comfort beneath heavy headgear, while foot soldiers used them as makeshift protection against rough straps or metal collars. During wartime travel, hoods served additional purposes, wrapped around gear as padding, doubled as a pillow at night, or pulled over the face to shield against dust and wind. Brightly dyed hoods occasionally indicated unit membership, distinguishing archers or levied men from different towns or lords. Although the hood was neither weapon nor armor, it offered essential support, providing comfort, protection, and a sense of identity amidst harsh campaigning conditions. Its presence in military records and visual depictions demonstrates how central this humble garment had become, even on the battlefield. In medieval England, the woolen hood carried meanings far beyond mere practicality. Within the walls of monasteries, it became a symbol of humility and devotion. Monks and nuns wore simple, undyed woolen hoods as part of their robes, signaling a deliberate separation from worldly fashions and comforts. The hood's modest design reflected the monastic values of discipline, poverty, and spiritual focus. It was not intended to impress, but to serve, covering the head in quiet obedience, shielding the wearer from both the cold and the temptations of vanity. Pilgrims traveling long distances to sacred shrines such as Canterbury or Walsingham also relied on woolen hoods, but theirs were often distinctive in color or shape to signify their sacred purpose. These pilgrims wrapped themselves in hooded capes, using the garments to protect against rain, wind, and dust, while also signaling to others that they were undertaking holy journeys. In this way, the hood served both a practical and symbolic function, bridging the needs of the body and the obligations of faith. Church records frequently mention woolen hoods being distributed to the poor, reflecting the Christian duty to shield the vulnerable from the harsh elements. Parish priests and charitable institutions saw the hood as an essential gift, cheap to provide, easy to maintain, and critical for survival in England's cold, wet climate. For the rural poor, the hood became one of the few defenses against sickness and exposure, embodying the intertwined values of care, modesty, and communal responsibility. Unlike other garments that were prized for decoration or status, the woolen hood's significance lay in its ability to protect, serve, and endue. Within the context of the church, it became a tool for moral instruction as much as physical comfort, teaching that simplicity, humility, and practicality were virtues to be honored. Beyond monasteries and church charity, the woolen hood also operated as a subtle social marker in village life. Its color, cut, and quality could reveal much about the wearer's occupation, wealth, or social standing. Peasants typically wore coarse, undyed wool, hoods that were rough and patched, suitable for daily labor and exposure to the elements. Merchants and urban artisans might wear hoods dyed in deep blues, reds, or greens, cut to fit more closely and finished with care. Minor nobles and wealthier townspeople had access to finely woven, soft wool that draped elegantly and held dyes better, creating a clear visual distinction between classes. Despite these differences, the woolen hood also created a shared visual language. Every villager, monk, pilgrim, and artisan wore a hood, acknowledging the demands of the English climate and the necessity of practical, protective clothing. In this way, the hood simultaneously expressed individuality, social identity, and collective experience. Simplicity was a virtue extolled in moral literature of the time, and the woolen hood exemplified it. Its unpretentious design communicated humility and work ethic, values prized across classes and in moral teachings. Whether seen on a monk tending the sick, a merchant walking the cobblestone streets of London, or a plowman in a muddy field, the hood represented a shared understanding that survival, decorum, and modesty were inseparable from daily life. It was not an ornament to be admired for luxury, but a tool to be appreciated for endurance, reliability, and quiet dignity. In this way, the garment transcended social divisions, linking monks, peasants, merchants, and pilgrims through a common experience of labor, care, and adaptation to a challenging environment. The woolen hood story is inseparable from the broader story of medieval England itself. The land was shaped by persistent rain, chilling winds, and rugged landscapes. People moved constantly, from farms to markets, forests to churchyards, and towns to festivals. The hood protected bodies from these conditions, allowing work to continue, children to stay warm, and journeys to be made safely. Its presence was woven into every aspect of life, shielding the head and ears from frost, preventing illness from damp conditions, and even serving as a modest veil during worship. Beyond its practical uses, it also conveyed social signals, spiritual intentions, and communal values. The hood became a silent witness to daily life, adjusting to every need and circumstance with minimal intervention from the wearer. Craftsmanship and labor were central to the hood's enduring presence. Shepherds, fullers, dyers, and tailors contributed their expertise to create garments suited for life's demands. Shepherds provided the raw fleece, its lanolin-rich fibers naturally water-resistant and insulating. Fullers transformed the raw wool into dense, durable cloth, while dyers added color to signify status, guild, or civic pride. Tailors then shaped the hood, refining its cut, extending leery pipes, and ensuring that it could be worn in multiple ways. The combined labor of these artisans reflected a sophisticated understanding of material, climate, and human need. Each hood was a product of knowledge passed through generations, embodying both skill and practical wisdom. The careful attention to design, functionality, and adaptability ensured that the hood remained central to English daily life across centuries. The resilience of families who lived and worked the land was also mirrored in the hood itself. Children, women, and men all relied on it to endure harsh conditions. Mothers wrapped infants in oversized hoods, securing warmth and comfort during chores and errands. Shepherds and plowmen folded hoods to create cushioning for carrying heavy loads. Villagers attending festivals or markets adjusted their leary pipes, draped hoods over shoulders, or tied them for protection during travel. Even in the coldest, wettest months, the wool retained warmth, proving indispensable for survival. The hood became more than a garment. It was a tool, a safeguard, and a symbol of the quiet perseverance that defined medieval English life. Even the smallest details reveal the depth of the hood's impact. A lyre pipe wound around a neck, a child tucked beneath an oversized hood, or a pilgrim recognized by the curve of a cow, all speak to the garment's integration into daily existence. It bridged households, classes, and occupations, linking individuals to community, climate, and culture. Its simplicity, durability, and adaptability made it indispensable, not just for warmth, but as a marker of identity, resilience, and shared experience. Every hood, no matter how coarse or finely made, tells a story of human ingenuity, survival, and connection across medieval England. The woolen hood, in its humble form, is a lens through which we can understand the medieval world. It carried practical protection, social meaning, spiritual symbolism, and aesthetic subtlety. From the fields to monasteries, markets to pilgrimages, it was present in every sphere of life. Its existence depended on the work of artisans, the resilience of families, and the demands of a harsh environment. In this way, the hood is both a tool and a testament to human adaptation, to the rhythm of everyday life, and to the values that shaped communities over centuries. To witness a single medieval woolen hood is to see the confluence of craft, climate, and culture, a small but profound artifact of survival, ingenuity, and human warmth. The story of the woolen hood is, in many ways, the story of medieval England itself, a land shaped by relentless rain, biting winds, and the constant motion of its people. More than a mere accessory, the hood was woven into the very rhythm of daily life. It protected bodies from the cold, signaling one's place in society while adapting effortlessly to every season and circumstance. From the simplest peasant's coarse hood to the finely dyed, tailored versions worn by urban merchants, the garment represented both utility and identity. It bridged social divides, linking households, trades, and occupations under the shared demands of climate and survival. Every hood carried the labor and craft of those who made it. Shepherds sheared the sheep whose lanolin-rich fleece was naturally insulating and water-resistant. Fullers processed the wool into dense cloth. Dyers imbued it with vibrant colors for those who could afford them, and tailors shaped hoods with care, extending leary pipes and ensuring they could be worn in multiple ways. This collaboration of skill and knowledge reflected generations of practical wisdom, all distilled into a single piece of clothing. The hood, simple in appearance, was the result of complex understanding of materials, weather, and human need. Its versatility allowed it to follow the wearer through every part of life, from plowing frozen fields to walking cobbled streets, from tending flocks on exposed moors to participating in sacred pilgrimages. Families, too, wove the hood into the fabric of their lives, Mothers wrapped children in oversized hoods, securing warmth and protection during errands, chores, and long days in the fields. Plowmen folded hoods for cushioning when carrying heavy loads. Villagers draped them over shoulders or tied them snugly under chins, adapting the garment to changing weather. The hood endured mud, sweat, smoke, and rain, silently supporting survival while allowing life to continue. Even the smallest details, a Larry pipe wrapped around a neck, a child hidden beneath a hood, a pilgrim recognized by the curve of a cowl, reveal how intimately it shaped daily existence. It was both a shield and a companion, a tool that adapted to the wearer's body and needs without demanding attention. The woolen hood's influence extended beyond mere practicality into the cultural and moral life of medieval England. Monks and nuns wore simple hoods to express humility and devotion, while pilgrims signaled sacred purpose through the distinctive folds of their garments. In villages, the color, cut, and quality of a hood communicated social identity, while simultaneously connecting the community through shared experience of work, weather, and survival. Simplicity was a virtue, and the hood embodied it, symbolizing endurance, modesty, and practical ingenuity. Across classes, ages, and occupations, the woolen hood became a quiet emblem of resilience, a testament to the human capacity to adapt, create, and endure. To behold a single medieval hood is to witness centuries of adaptation, craft, and human warmth. From the plowman on a frost-laden field to the merchant walking cobbled streets, from the shepherd on a moor to the pilgrim on a sacred journey, the hood was present in every sphere of life. It carried with it the skill of artisans, the resilience of families, and the values of communities that prized modesty and utility above extravagance. In its humble form, the woolen hood bridged people and places, classes and occupations, climate and culture. It was at once practical and symbolic, functional and expressive, a small but profound thread woven into the fabric of medieval English existence. To understand the woolen hood is to understand the endurance, ingenuity, and quiet determination that defined a people and a nation accustomed to facing the challenges of a cold and restless land.